How close is the White House at this point to making this decision?
Yeah, Sarah, well, let's take through some of the news so far of just this morning that would indicate that the president is inching closer to making this decision. One, Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, he was giving an interview in Malaysia to BBC, and he said that the president has received all options for a possible military action from the Pentagon, and that the Defense Department, the Pentagon, the military is ready to support and follow through whatever actions he does decide to take. You also have in the UK, British Prime Minister David Cameron recalling the UK Parliament back from their summer recess to discuss possible military action in Syria. And then you're also seeing today yet another delay to get UN investigators into the chemical weapons sites to carry out their investigation. Now, U.S. officials over the last 24 hours have really been pouring cold water on the idea that these UN investigators would really lead to anything credible, because they're not even authorized to say who carried out whatever chemical attack they would be able to confirm. And the U.S. yesterday, you saw Secretary of State John Kerry basically for the first time having a U.S. official pointing their fingers, blaming squarely the chemical attacks on the Assad government. So one thing we're waiting for from the U.S. right now is their own intelligence document that should be released in the next couple of days to bolster the case that it was actually Assad's government that carried out these attacks.
If the U.S. proceeds with the decision, Juliana, to intervene in Syria, what exactly would it look like, and how would it be coordinated with some of the other members of the international community? You mentioned David Cameron of the UK.
So it would be very targeted and limited in both its size and its scope. Officials are saying this would not be, the objective would not be to root out Assad. Rather, the objective would be to send a message to the Syrian people and to the international community that the use of chemical weapons is not an accepted norm, that it cannot and will not be tolerated. So again, if you look at some comparisons, there have been comparisons made to the justification for involvement in Kosovo in 1999. Officials are maybe looking at that in terms of the legal justification for being able to go around the United Nations. They're not expecting to get Russia on board, so they're not looking for a UN Security Council resolution. The other parallel that officials would point you to is the Libya actions a few years ago. But again, that, while it was limited in size and scope, the goal there was to get out Gaddafi. And the goal here is not to get out Assad. It's to really target Syria's chemical weapons infrastructure and their capabilities.
And are we likely to hear from the president if the U.S. decides to take military action? Then can we expect a news conference from President Obama?
You'd definitely be getting some sort of statement from the president if he goes ahead with this track. The question is, in what kind of forum would that be? You probably wouldn't see an Oval Office address, because that's really reserved for a wartime kind of statement. And the U.S., this White House, again, because they want to keep this limited in size and scope, they don't want this to be another long-term, open-ended Mideast conflict. They wouldn't want it to rise to that kind of level like you would see around Afghanistan or Iraq.